Hello there, Force of Will players, and welcome back to another Wander Wednesday. This week, I'm going to be bringing you the last real deck that I took into a GP environment and top 8'd with. It was a GP in 2018. It was right after Worlds happened. Or it might have, no, I don't actually think it was a GP. I think it was just a cash tournament. It was just a large cash tournament. But it was the last real large event that I went in, expecting to perform well, wanting to perform well, coming off of the back of my top 8 at Worlds. And that deck is Green Gill. So Green Gill has gotten a lot of tools. And I'm sure some of you just looking at the deck list right now probably might not like some of the options that are in the deck immediately. I'll go over each one, why they're in here, why I wanted them specifically, but there is a caveat to how I built this deck. One, there is another way to build Green Gill currently, and that is using Dinner Time. Dinner Time allows you to play Leaf Paladin early, right? Which gives you your entire engine for Gill. It allows you to play Inheritor of the Stars early, which Inheritor can't be canceled, so it's very easy to stick. It has Barrier, so it's hard to deal with, and then it ramps you mana as well, so it's a very impactful card. Dinner Time also lets you play multiple Lorites. Dinner Time also lets you Judgment early, because your Judgment is 3 Green Will, which is a little bit, or a lot, a bit, I guess. But this is just the version I wanted to showcase. It's a mix of the old list as well, things that worked well for it back then, in addition to adding new and current cards. However you as a current player would like to build this, I would be more than interested to see your versions in the comment section below, or if you feel free to want to send them to me. But this is what I landed on after going through multiple versions of the list. Some of the cards are just options that I wanted as kind of a funny thing, specifically Ultra Awakening. We'll get into that one. But anyway, straight into the deck. So Green Gill has the text to tap, search your deck for a Gentlebreeze Elemental, reveal it, add it to your hand, and then it can remove an elemental in your grave from the game to produce green. However, that green can only be used to play Spirit Magics. He has the text that at the end of your turn, you put the top card of your deck in your grave. So you just mill one at the end of your turn if you're in Green Gill. On his backside, so again, 3 to Judgment, he has Barrier, and he's an 1100. He's relatively difficult to deal with. And then you can remove, still same thing, remove an elemental from your grave. However, on his flip side, you get 2 Green Will. So you get 2 Green Will in order to play Spirit Magics. You no longer have the mill effect. However, now you have put 2 cards from your removed area that were removed by Gill. So it can't just be stuff like Spirit Magics you remove off of Lorite or anything like that. It has to be elementals that Gill himself was removing. You put them on the bottom of your deck, and then you search your deck for a chant. So he just gets any chant that you want from your deck to your hand. So Leaf Paladin, 3 will, green 1, 5/5. He gets you all of the different colored elementals, basically. So he gets you White Leaf, which has Inheritance 0, gain 600. Red Leaf, pay 1, deal 300 to a J Resonator. Blue Leaf, bounce a Resonator with total cost 1 or less. And then target J-Res gets -2/-2 off of Black Leaf. They all have more powerful versions of their inheritance effects if you play them by banishing them. But that is your typical elemental lineup. This is the lineup that I ran back in the day. You could add more White Leafs because it has Inheritance 0, so it's easier to dump into the grave. But this is the ratio that I ran back in the day. So Leaf Paladin just gets you it goes +3, right? So you go +1 in tempo, Leaf Paladin in play, +3 in tempo by adding 4 elementals to your hand after removing the 1 from your hand. Gill, Inheritor of the Stars Gill Lapis. Again, I kind of talked about it earlier. It's still just a very impactful card. With the 4 will, you're playing Absolute Awarenesses, which we'll get into in a little, for some form of mana ramp. So you get to play Inheritor early, and then Inheritor can kind of function to remove other elementals to get you more will. The interesting thing is the mystery counters getting put on your J Ruler. It does lead to being able to play cards like Glint of Insight and things like that required mystery counters to have their full effect. Again, I opted not to, but there is a different version of the deck that you can use for that. Gentlebreeze Elemental. It is a spirit magic as well as an elemental. It is just quick cast, draw a card for a single green will. So it is your main loop. It is how you loop through your elementals and your spirit magics and all that good stuff. Absolute Awareness. You search your Magic Stone deck for a basic Magic Stone. It is 2 will, sorcery, speed, chant. It is the easiest card to not counter in the game right now, so your mana ramp is in a very good spot, and you get to kind of cheat your mana ramp out because of Gill's effect. So you're in a good spot trying to ramp Absolute Awarenesses early. There is something to be said for potentially playing 4 White Leafs in order to get a turn 1 Absolute Awareness. However, that would be something to either look into like post sideboard or in like a different variant of the deck, right? We went over these 4 already. Lorite. So Lorite, everyone knows just as the Stifle. He's just an elf. However, he does have another effect. So you can remove 3 spirit magics in your grave from the game to put Lorite into your hand. So the deck, at the time, it was very good at looping Lorite. I mean, even now, it's still probably decent at looping Lorite. Because you have your Absolute Awarenesses or Spirit Magics, your Gentlebreeze Elementals or Spirit Magics, your 5th Elements, which we'll get into, are Spirit Magics, Vanish is a Spirit Magic, Spiritual Guidance is a Spirit Magic, Ultra Awakening is a Spirit Magic. So you could use like your Blue Leaf, bounce a Lorite that you've already played, Black Leaf, kill it, remove 3, add it back to your hand. Same thing with Red Leaf, kill it, remove 3, add it back to your hand. You just had a bunch of options in order to get many, many Lorites, right? For Fair Spell, we're just trying to play as mana efficiently as possible. Again, 3 will for Gill's Judgment, 3 will for Leaf Paladin, 4 will for Inheritor. We have the ramp, but we just want to keep trying to play mana efficiently. Garyon, I kind of just used Garyon to fill the deck out. I wanted to cap on Lorites because we have extra synergy, because we're Spirit Magics, we're Gill. And then I wanted Fair Spell because it's just the most mana efficient for any type of cancel spell, right? This hits 1 mana sorcery speed cards, but I'm more interested in just trying to play mana positive off of Fair Spell, which Garyon will never play mana positive off of a counter. Vanish. Vanish is just a raw counter spell in the event we need to cancel some 2 mana card or 3 mana sorcery speed card or like anything like that. That's why I just have it as a one of, again, all chants are searchable if you're Gill. Gill doesn't need to specifically search spirit magics. He searches any chant. So Vanish, even though it is a spirit magic, it's our most efficient cancel spell because we can pay 1 for it as long as Gill is flipped. 5th Element, it's just our removal card. Again, searchable, but it also functions well with our elementals. We have Leaf Paladin, we have all of these other leaves. We have Gentlebreeze Elementals if they're in our hand. And then, so this can easily, especially if you've played a Leaf Paladin already, 5th Element can easily hit something for like 900, 1200, etc., which is a typical value that you want to be hitting for, like a decent value. And it's only a single green CMC. Elixir's Love. This took the place of Spinning Aqua Soul, which is what we used to run. It was blue Gill. You used to play 1 blue basic stone and you would get it out with Absolute Awareness. The Elixir's Love is similar. It gets a chant, but it also has Remnant. So even if you mill it off of Gill, gets sent to the grave somehow, anything like that, you can still activate its effect. And it's in base green instead of base blue, so we don't have to worry about it too much. Setting the Stage of Providence, I just wanted efficient anti-cancel spells, right? Because I want to cancel things efficiently, and I don't want to get canceled efficiently. The other thing is Lorite is very impactful against our deck, right? Leaf Paladin can get Lorited. Gill's effect to add chance can get Lorited. Things like that. So I wanted to make sure that even if our Lorites can get Lorited, right? Even if we were trying to use these effects, they wouldn't be easily cancelable. Loki's Insight, just a very good quick cast rip card. Gets a lot of stuff, and because, again, we're kind of playing mana up due to Absolute Awareness, I wanted to play the Insights in order to kind of have a way to retain more value over our opponent. Again, you can search it off of Gill. It's just 2 will, you just rip something out, 2 cards out of your opponent's hand, basically. Spiritual Guidance. So Spiritual Guidance, the old thing that you used to do with Gill was it was pretty safe to flip him and activate his will ability, or his activate ability. So you would activate the ability to remove an elemental on his front side, you would Judgment Search Gentlebreeze Elemental, and then if you had another elemental in grave, you could remove that elemental, produce 2 more Green Will, because it's a different ability on the backside. And now you have the 3 to play Spiritual Guidance. You can tuck those 2 that you removed back in order to play this, in order to search Spiritual Guidance, and then just play it. So that was the kind of old way. It was just like a free value type card, right? To use for your first like actual search. We have other things nowadays, so it might just be better to cut the card. I just put it in for kind of nostalgia reasons, as well as it is kind of like a combo value piece that you can get off of the Judgment Flip if you have nothing better to get. Ultra Awakening, same deal. The biggest issue Gill had back in the day was closing out games, and that's still kind of the case. Like, if you look at the Resonator lineup, like, sure, we have Garyons, maybe we'll eventually end up playing them. We have Inheritor of the Stars, and then, like, our next best Resonator is Leaf Paladin. So you kind of have to go in and just kill your opponent. Ultra Awakening was a decent way to do it back in the day. Again, because you can search it, and because it's a Spirit Magic and Elemental, you can kind of loop it infinitely, right? As long as you remove it off of Gill's effect, you can remove Gentlebreeze Elementals off of Gill's effect, you can tuck this back with Gill, and then immediately search it. So it was kind of a way to always have lethal, especially in a deck that kind of suffered from trying to push for lethal. Dante Enters the Game of Gods. This is kind of our final lethal card. So we primarily want to use it for the top effect, give AJ Resonator +4/+4, Flying, Pierce, Drain, and Bane. You just give Gill keyword soup, primarily Pierce. He becomes a 15/15. If you Ultra Awakening him, he becomes a 35/35. And you could just dome your opponent for a lot of damage. Because you'd also have Drain, you do just also gain a bunch of life at the same time. The other thing is the pay 5, 10, or 1500. You do have White Leafs, so you are kind of playing life positive a lot of the time. So paying in order to get value, if you're kind of running out, not the worst thing, right? So you can use both effects, basically. You're primarily going to be using it as a way to close out the game, which means you can potentially drop it to a single copy. But if you drop it to a single copy, then you run the risk of drawing it early or your opponent discarding it, and then you're at the point where you're just looping Ultra Awakening or just trying to get in hits with Gill. Now for stones. You can make this more malleable if you so choose. Absolute Awarenesses, you never really played the amount of basics required for it. However, back in the day, the basics you played were, I think it was either 1 wind or 2 wind, and then 1 water. The reason for that, and you played, I think, 13 stones. It was either 12 or 13. The reason was you never wanted to hit the water stone, just never wanted to call it. It had to be brought out by Absolute Awareness. Because if you ever hit it early, you were probably going to lose that game. Nowadays, we don't really need that water will, because we have 4 Bradstone, we have 4 Moonshade, like we just have 8 other Omni sources. So this is just kind of a way to thin out the Magic Stone deck, as in addition to ramp more will. Spirit Stones also just work as value cards. We do call stones a fair bit, so it's nice to just have a stone that can also function as value. The reason I opted on the 8 Omni stones, or 8 5-color stones, instead of more Spirit Stones, is because we have blue here, we have darkness here, we're in green predominantly. Technically, we have white for White Leaf, darkness for Inheritor, etc., and then potentially whatever the sideboard might be. So it just seemed like a better idea to have Omni stones, because I felt I was more in 3 colors, than just in like a singular color. However, your primary early game plan is going to revolve around just Wind Will or Green Will. So if you wanted to cut like Moonshades for Spirit Stones or other things like that, I wouldn't really argue that with you, basically. But so anyway, this is my version of Green Gill. Again, there are so many different variants you can play of this deck. You can go up on White Leafs. You could potentially cut Leaf Paladin altogether. in order to, and still play the dinner time version to Judgment early, or play Inheritor of the Stars. Just go more heavy on White Leafs and then your Gentlebreeze Elementals. You can play Ragstones, as well as like Blessing of Yggdrasil or cards to call special magic stones in order to get the tap search effect off every single turn off of Gill. That is another thing that you can do, like another type of play line. There's just so many different ways and variants in order to kind of build the deck. So I just wanted to show off the kind of old version with a couple of updated cards, because that was what I was most comfortable with. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Show me your builds down in the comments, or reach out and just let me know. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this week. Hope you have a great rest of your week and day. Bye-bye.